Hey everyone, welcome back. This week we're going to be taking what we learned this past week in Zoom about those agamographs a little bit further. We looked at some works by Yaakov Agam, who is an Israeli sculptor who figured out a really cool way to make two pictures in one image. It's all about perspective, about which side you're looking at the image from. So last week we did some paper folding and found a way to create an agomograph with just one sheet of paper. Today we're going to be using one sheet again, but this time there's going to be some cutting and gluing involved. It's going to be pretty cool, so let's get started. All right, so making your own agomograph is pretty simple. In fact, last week we were able to make one just like this. Now, we were making these mostly with just abstract patterns, shapes, and lines. I'm going to teach you a different way to make an agomograph that actually allows you to draw a picture and then have that be what the agomograph shows you as you shift it back and forth. So for this, you're going to need some coloring tools, paper, scissors, and also some glue. I found squeeze glue to work the best. Glue stick can also work, but we're going to start with some folding today. So I'm going to clear my area, and I'm just working with a piece of printer paper that I'm going to start by folding in half, hot dog style. Okay? All right, so we have that first line there. If you'd like, you can kind of take a pencil or some kind of mark making material and make a line right there, because we're actually going to be cutting that out eventually. But right now, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to now start at one end, and I'm going to start to accordion fold my paper. But I wanted this line to be here first so I can keep an eye on where that is. So my accordion folds, I want them to be maybe about a 1/2 inch or so, but you can kind of eyeball it. I guess that would be about as thick as a marker. Flip it over, and I'm folding it back this way. Now we want these to be as close to the same distance folds as we can. We don't want them to be all wonky. So really try to make your folds all the same size. Right. I have a little left over here. I think I'm actually just going to snip that part off with my scissors. Okay, let's see how many sections we have here. I'm going to flatten it all out. Looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 12, 13. Now this is going to work best to have even numbers. So I'm actually going to cut one more of my sections off because I want to make it an even 12. So we have even numbers. All right. So I should have 12 now. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this whole piece in half horizontally, and then I'm going to take one of those two pieces that I create and cut that in half. That is where I'm going to be creating my pictures. So let's cut this thing in half. All right. From here, we've got two pieces. One of these is going to be the base for my agomograph. This will be the part that I'm gluing my other pieces onto. So I'm just going to set this one up here. I'm not going to use that right now. This one, I'm actually going to want to cut it in half to make two separate pictures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So since I have 12 sections all together, this is my center line. So I want to cut right here. Okay. So this is where I'm going to be creating my pictures for my agomograph. Now, I want to think about two different images that maybe are connected in a way, but show some sort of change. So I kind of like the idea of when the seasons change, things look a lot different. Since we did just come out of winter and now we're totally in spring, I think what I'm going to do here is try to show a winter scene on this one. And then this one, I want to show the same scene, but instead it's kind of changed to spring. So I'm just going to go ahead and start drawing. Maybe I can use a pencil first and go over it with some Sharpie and then add some color. And let's see what I come up with. All right, I finished drawing number one. I was trying to make kind of like just a dreary, cold winter day. Included a snowman and a barn. Now I'm gonna try to create the same image, but this time I'm gonna imagine that it is spring. So, here I go. All right, so I've got my two different pictures. I've got my wintertime scene and my springtime scene. I even included a little cow. Now is the tricky part. We're gonna actually cut these up and we're gonna glue them to our main page right here. So right along those folding lines, if you wanna refold yours to make the lines a little bit more defined, that might be kind of helpful. All right, here we go. I'm gonna start snipping up my winter scene. It's really important to try your best to stay on those folded lines. Once it's all folded or cut up, I'm gonna start gluing these to every other space on my back sheet. So I'm gonna get my glue at the ready. It's gonna be pretty simple. I'm just gonna do a tiny bead of glue down this section. Does not have to be a lot. All right, I'm gonna skip a section and I'm gonna go to the next one. All right, I've got my first picture glued onto the back sheet. Now I'm gonna do that same thing, but with this one. Cut it up, glue it on. All right, I've got all of the pieces glued onto my back sheet. As you can probably guess, it was really important to remember the order that everything was in. If it's helpful for you, you can write little cues on the back, like 1A, 1B, 1C. That way you can coordinate it with these different pieces. All right, my glue is still a little bit wet, but I'm gonna try to carefully accordion fold my Agamograph. Ooh, back the way it was. Okay, that's about as best as I can do right now. Let's see if it works. Winter, spring, winter, spring. That's actually really cool. I haven't made one of these yet that has a full color picture on each of the sides. Now, obviously, you can play with this a little bit. It might not be 100% perfect. Mine certainly is not, but the effect is really cool. So, I'm so excited to see what you create for your Agomograph. Remember, this is just a more technical version of what we were doing last week in art. So, show me two different pictures that represent some kind of change happening. For me, it's the change from winter to spring. For you, it might be day to night, peanut butter to jelly. What you create is up to you. Thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to see a video of your Agomograph. Have a great week.